Hey, how's it going tonight? Man, this is incredible. We are so glad that you guys are here. This is a community event, and we are super excited. This may be your very first time here, and we're just really, really excited as a community, regardless of where you are in your faith, that we're attacking a community issue here. And so we just want to say, first off, thank you guys very much for being here. I think it shows a community that really, really cares about this. So if there's a seat in between you, we got a lot of people still coming in. Maybe if you could squeeze to the center, that would be super helpful. Just in terms of as people come in, they don't have to cross 12 or 14 people to get to a place. And you don't want them sitting in your lap, and so just go ahead and squeeze to the middle, and that would be great.
But only if you value your toes, that's fine. Just keep scooting.
That's true. Well, we're really glad that you guys are here. We're going to introduce ourselves. Liz, why don't you take it over? Introduce yourself to this great group of people.
All right, so my name is Liz Barfield, and I am one of the few Wilmington natives. Any Wilmington natives in here? Yes.
Lots.
See, people don't think that we're here, but we are. And so that's why it's our duty, as you all are doing, to be here and really represent for our city and find ways to heal it. So, like I said, one of the few from here, born and raised, and it is really a great city to live in, but I know that there are so many ways it can be better, and so that's why I'm here.
That's awesome. Thanks, Liz. And what do you do for fun?
I like to write letters.
Like to write letters, like with your hand?
Yeah, I have a very
or?
big stationery collection. I have some pen pals, so if you want to be my pen pal, let me know, and I'll write you a letter.
That's awesome. That's a cool little hobby. Hey, do we have any? I'm Hugo, by the way. I'm one of the pastors here at Port City Community Church. I've been in this community since 1997 and been on staff with Port City for 11 and a half years as a pastor of our care department and helping out just to provide layers of care. Do we have any Georgia natives in the house? Yeah, thank you. I'm a Georgia guy.
We love you all too.
Yeah, I'm a transplant. We moved here in 97, but I've got a wife of 22 years, Holly, and two boys, Sam and Mike. Sam's 15, and go ahead and clap. Hey, and feel free to clap. You know, we're dealing with tough subject tonight, so we're going to try to just enjoy ourselves as much as possible and provide some education and awareness and hope and some of these things. But so I've got Sam is my 15-year-old, Mike is my 13-year-old. I'm a huge fisherman, love to fish. The outdoors are great. And if anybody knows me, you know, who do I pull for? Auburn, that's right, War Eagle. I'm an Auburn guy, graduated, and actually met my wife there, which was a great thing. So anyway, a little about me, enough about me. We just really wanted to give you guys a brief chance, because we've got a lot of things going on tonight to kind of just hear from us. We're going to give you guys just a second or two to stand up and to meet somebody around you. Just smile, shake their hand, and say welcome, you know, or hey, I don't know you, or I do know you. Okay, so we'll go to your perspective. What to expect, and then the video will be good. We got plenty of time. Awesome. I always love that part. We do that every Sunday here at Port City. It's always fun because it just people kind of light up and get a chance, because this is a big place and you may be sitting somewhere near someone that you don't know. So anyway, Liz, why don't you tell everybody here what the plan is for tonight and kind of what everybody can expect?
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and set the stage for you guys a little bit. So I'm not sure what you came in thinking that we were going to do here tonight, but it is all about education, awareness, and hope. We know that so many different people face this issue in different ways, and we all have different perspectives, but I'm sure you've either been directly or indirectly affected by the opioid epidemic within our city. And so we want to kind of put our assumptions at the door and kind of just come in with open minds and open hearts to be able to hear the different messages that we're going to hear. You're going to hear a lot of really great true stories from our own community, but you're also going to be able to meet so many different resources within our community that you can link up with, volunteer with, find ways to give back and to build up our city. But also, you're going to have some really great gift bags out there. We are all about the swag, all about the movement.
Have you guys seen? I mean, there's a lot of stuff out in the hallways, yeah.
Y'all don't like free stuff?
No?
Okay.
Free stuff's good. At least most of it. I mean, but anyway. So one of the things we talk about is perspective here, right? Perspective. Everybody has a different perspective on whatever topic that we're engaging in. It
Right.
depends on where you are, where you're starting from. And so we're going to try to give as much perspective tonight. A lot of you are professionals in the community. Some of you may be struggling with some kind of opioid dependency or addiction. Some of you may be family members of someone who's struggling, and just a variety. And what we want to say is we're going to put our differences aside tonight. You may be a person of faith. You may be a person who doesn't have a belief system. That is totally okay with us for this evening, okay? We're talking about a community of people coming together to make a difference, because this is one of the things that I truly believe, and for 20 years I believe this, that combined influences can make a greater impact than just individual influences alone. The more we can combine our influences, the greater impact we can have.
Right.
Okay? And it's huge, just like synergy. And so, this is going to be a chance for all of us to kind of bond tonight a little bit and to find out some more information and raise awareness. And honestly, to be inspired, too, that we can make a difference. This is a tough world. We deal with a lot of complex, difficult, somewhat seemingly hopeless situations. And yet, we're gonna work really, really diligently to make a difference. And so, again, so much appreciate you guys being here, and looking forward to seeing how you guys can connect and collaborate and figure out ways that you can make a difference.
All right, so I truly believe that the Lord is a healer, but there's also so many things that we can be doing on our part to help. So again, we have the resources out there, the bags that you guys got, they have the different resource lists in there. There's also a free pen, so you don't have to steal your neighbors. We don't believe in stealing, so use your own pen, okay? Can I get you to at least do that for us this evening? Thank you.
I think I left my pen. Do you have? I'm asking. I mean, can I do that?
I will make sure I get it back at the end of the evening, though.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I may need to make a few notes back there, but you'll get it back.
Okay.
Don't worry. Don't worry. All right. Well, listen, we're gonna jump to a video, I think. Can you introduce that for us?
Yeah, so we're going to have a really great awareness video. So this video is not meant to scare you. It is just meant to raise awareness. So you probably don't realize how pervasive this issue is sometimes, but it can reach anyone, anywhere. You might not even intend to go down the path. So wanting to make sure that we're at least aware of the signs and the symptoms and the different strategies that we can use to prevent the different opioid addictions. And so just take a look at you might see yourself in some of these people or see one of your loved ones in them. So finding ways to kind of stop it in its tracks. Yeah. We'll turn our attention to the screens.
Anyone can become an addict. I mean, I was a child prodigy at age 11, and look what I went through. I was an athlete, dancer, singer. I had a wonderful family. I was working in a daycare, teaching the 3-year-old group, taking 10 Percocets a day. I was getting medication that I needed for actual pain. I had 3 kidney stones, and the kidney stones were painful. At times they were giving it to me. I didn't necessarily need it, but I was still taking it because I liked it. I liked the feeling it gave me.
Where do we start? What person do we start with? Is it, my friend that's struggling? What else can I do? What else can I say to him? What are the right words to reach him? You feel defeated when you're trying to help them, and you know where they could end up. You've seen it. And in many respects, there's nothing you can do about it. And that's the way I feel about all my friends. I felt like there's nothing I could do about it.
I mean, it's one of those things, it's easy to talk about something that, affects us all. And I don't care who you are, you will be affected. Rich, poor, you might not be the one who's addicted, but you may have somebody break into your house like we did. It was awful. So it was a heroin addict. I mean, I know that because, once they caught the guy, they did catch him. That's exactly what the problem was.
I was withdrawing, and I went down to this elderly couple that knew me from church. My grandfather was with me at the time, my papa, and I set this plot up in my mind to take him to distract Miss Ann. I raided her bathroom while my grandpa distracted her and took all their pain meds. Opiates in general are just, something that lay around everywhere every day. You never know where you can find them. They're right there sometimes in front of your face and you don't even know it. It's in your own home. It's in your friend's house or your buddy's houses. It's everywhere. Your neighbors, anybody. It's not just heroin or things that are illegal. It's legal things that you see and hear about every day that are prescribed on a regular basis to people.
Opioids have robbed me of 2 friends. And it's something I don't wish on anyone. And it's something that can be stopped. But they're gone, and we are left here to mourn. I'm here mourning 2 people, 2 friends. I just hope with me sharing this that, of course, impact and awareness, but if it reaches somebody and prevents them from using, stops them, then it was worth me sharing my story.
We're impacted on a daily basis by patients. And when I first started practicing here, I think it was rare that we had to reverse somebody from narcotics. And I'm not going to say it's a daily occurrence, but we certainly see it multiple times a week that we're having to reverse people. And those are the ones that are coming in here. Of course, people are being reversed in the community by our paramedics and by our law enforcement and first responders, all the time. We're seeing more and more people that present to the emergency department looking for help, and they really don't know where to turn. And so the default answer is to come to the emergency department. And unfortunately, we're really not set up to deal with patients who need those long-term solutions. We're here more for acute crisis, but not for, I'm ready to get off drugs now, I'm here, help me.
I think this patient population is important because we see the effect of the community use when these babies come in here, and they are the ones who are greatly suffering. I mean, he has been forced to go through this withdrawal, and they truly do suffer. If there's something I can do to make it better, if there's something I can say to a pregnant woman in the community who thinks she might want to abuse drugs, let me tell you what your baby's gonna go through. Let me help you help yourself, because these guys really do have a tough time. People for different reasons are abusers for whatever reason, and if we don't help them for whatever started the abuse, then it's a never-ending cycle. I think follow-up for these kids and these families has got to be, and like rigid follow-up. Okay, if you don't do this, then this is gonna happen. Because truly these kids are the ones who are suffering. These little babies in here are the ones, so.
This is important to me because this is my community, and I have a family, I have children, and I want them to grow up in a safe place. I think that we all need to take more accountability in our community and our own families, and make this a better place.
I'm so thankful for Haven. It opened so many doors in my life that, couldn't have been opened, and changed me in ways that I couldn't have been changed. This place saved my life.
It's hard to talk about. No one wants to talk about their friends dying, but I'm willing because I want it to change. It has to change. It has to stop. Because nobody should bury a family member or a friend from this. It's not fair. It's not fair.
Wow, a pretty heavy video. kind of raw and really just talking and getting to the heart of some of the struggles that this community faces. I want to introduce you all. Some of you may know Mark. This is Mark Allen. Mark, yes,
Good
give
evening.
him a big hand. It's been an honor and a privilege for me to work alongside Mark for about 6.5 years. He has an incredible testimony and influence, and we thought we would give Mark a little bit of time tonight to share his story and some different things. But Mark, a lot of people in the room, again, may not know you. So tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Okay, great. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Allen. I'm on staff here at Port City Community Church, and I get to coordinate Refuge, which is our addictions ministry. I grew up in Central Florida, on the east coast of Central Florida, where we have waves, and grew up surfing and skating. But at an early age, I sort of fell into this group where I learned how to do a lot of drugs around the age of 12. And for the next 22 years of my life, I was in active addiction. But about 12 years ago, through, I guess, many different forms of help, I was actually able to find freedom from opioid addiction and cocaine addiction. So it's been 12 years now that I've been clean.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's really awesome. And again, we're going to talk about this because some people, as you hear Mark's story, you think about it, it's like, well, maybe he's the exception to the rule. And how would you respond to somebody if they thought that, well, gosh, this is a guy who found hope and freedom, but can that really happen with my friends or my family or myself? Well, how would you answer that question?
Well, to answer that question, it's actually a complex question. It really is, because everyone handles life differently. Every single one of us looks at life and operates in life differently. And so in order to really help someone who is struggling with addiction and dependency, I think the very first step is to love someone exactly where they're at. That is the key component. And then it was true in my life. I needed to be loved so that I could start trusting people with next steps. For example, every resource that's here tonight has this great resource. They're great at what they do, but we can never find out what someone needs until we actually enter into their lives and start sharing hope. I'm not the only one who's been freed from opiate addiction at all. I know so many people. That's one reason why I love what we're doing here tonight. The message gets to be out there.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. It is amazing because everybody's in different places and we all have different influences. And I think there's nothing, quite honestly, more powerful in this world than walking along someone who is struggling. I think there is nothing more powerful, because just knowing that somebody cares enough to sit with you and to listen to you as you're struggling with anything, but especially this. I mean, it's a kind of a secret thing. There's a lot of shame and guilt wrapped up around that, and there is nothing more powerful than somebody coming alongside of you and going, I love you just as you are, and I'm concerned about you. And I know a lot of us have experienced varying levels of success and failure with that, quite honestly. And my encouragement is that we've got to keep going. Like we've got to keep working towards that, right?
Yeah, yes.
Because loving somebody who may push you off and they act like they're unlovable, they're just trying, they're stuck. And we have something that we can offer. We have ourselves to offer. That's great. So tell me about what is your vision for the night? What is your vision? What do you hope people would accomplish from coming out of this tonight?
Well, okay, so Wilmington was named #1 in the nation for opioid abuse. Not only that, we had 4 cities in North Carolina in the top 25. So we were identified as this. But I think I was going to ask everyone to look around, but you've already done that. This is how a community responds. This is it. This is amazing. Tonight, one of the most important components is awareness. Really, I think one thing that's really been missing for us is that the actual truth of how opioids reach and how they affect our community as a whole. I mean, they actually reach into places that I don't think we've really been aware of. And so tonight, awareness is huge, but it's also education, understanding, really, what does this really do? And then hope. So that's really, and then in addition to that, we have 50 different resources here tonight, top organizations in this fight against this opioid epidemic. So that's really That was the vision for the night.
Yeah, we want everybody to interact with the vendors and to talk to them. And sometimes, we always approach things from our own perspective, but I think it's really interesting to ask, hey, what's your organization about? What's your mission statement? What's going on with you? And just listen and gather information and resources, because there have been so many times, and you and I know this, when we're working together on something that somebody you met or somebody that I met, when, I was like, oh, and as we more collaborate, and as we more align our influences, what happens is that the light bulbs begin to go off, and you say, oh, this person here and that person there. And we've actually partnered with a couple of organizations for this event.
Absolutely. Very early on, we partnered with CHEC, the Southeastern Area Health and Education Center, New Hanover Regional Medical Center, so many of the organizations that are at the Resource Expo. And we're committed as Port City Community Church to work alongside all of those organizations.
Yeah, that's right. Because we understand and recognize, again, this isn't just a physical issue. This just isn't an emotional issue, but it also has spiritual components, and it also has volitional components. I believe that we were made that we can make choices, and that's what volitional means. So as we work towards that, kind of combining and strengthening, because I believe that we have a tremendous opportunity to do something here, that we all get a chance to do something here together. And just want to again say this is going to be a great time. Yeah. So we're going to listen. Mark, can't tell you how much I appreciate you, your team, the volunteers, everybody you've gotten around here. Yes. Some interesting fact about Mark that he might not like to share, but some people play fantasy football. He actually is a fantasy surfer. He picks.
Okay, hold on.
Okay, yeah, explain it to us, because I play fantasy football, but I don't get fantasy surfing.
Okay, does anyone know about this? Please, I can't be the only one.
Look around the room.
Okay,
we've got one.
Okay.
And he paid him to raise his hand.
Thank you so much. There were 3.
Okay,
all right. There were 3. It is much like fantasy football. I've never done that, but fantasy surfer, we follow these contests all around the world, and it is awesome. That's what I have to say.
He is a true surfer. There's no doubt about it. He's out there doing it all the time. So anyway, Mark, thanks a lot for sharing tonight with us. And we're going to talk to you a little bit later on as well. So thank you.
Thank you. You may head back.
All right, so what we thought we'd do now is we're going to bounce a little bit, okay? Liz has actually gone out into the atrium and rotunda, and she's gonna talk to a few of the vendors and just kind of give us a highlight. Now, obviously, we can't go through 50 of the vendors from in here, but we wanted to highlight several different vendors. And so, Liz, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you.
Awesome. How are things going out there?
Everything is great. I didn't tell you that I moonlight as a newscaster, so we're going to give this a try.
Okay. Have at it.
All right, so I'm here with Michael and Margaret, and they're with the North Carolina Harm Reduction Coalition. Michael, did you want to tell us a little bit about what you all do?
So North Carolina Harm Reduction Coalition is an agency that meets people where they are in a non-judgmental approach and offers a variety of interventions to keep people safe and reduce the harms of actively using, so that when they are ready to make a change and recover, they have less barriers in their life to overcome. So an example of this would be supplying access to clean syringes, so that when Johnny wants to work on himself and recovery, he doesn't have to navigate through hepatitis or HIV. Or even more fundamental is we offer naloxone to keep Johnny alive so that he has a life to change. So we are an agency that is really about meeting people exactly where they are and providing resources and connecting them to different agencies and really loving individuals regardless of what's going on in their life.
I really appreciate that aspect, loving people right where they are. That is what we're called to do, and so I really appreciate that. Thank you, guys. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Sure. I would like to add that we are also offering the best prevention technique possible is right here. They are free and they are available at our booth.
All right. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you.
All right, and we're going to go over now.
Good job, Liz. You're doing great. A+ on the interviewing skills out there. Wow, there's a lot of people still out in the hallway.
Oh, yes, we have a lot of people out here. So our next table is with Coastal Horizons, and they work with prevention and drug-free. Yes. And so I'm here with Regina. Regina, tell me a little bit about what you all do. What is your mission?
Thank you. Coastal Horizons is a 47-year-old behavioral health organization. We provide a whole continuum of services. So we do treatment, we do groups for people, they're called IOP, intensive outpatient. So it's like a crash course in recovery for people who are just entering treatment so that they learn along with others how to have a healthier recovery. We do individual counseling, we have children's services, we have a whole array of children's services because a lot of time when people are suffering from mental health or substance use issues, it's not just the adult, it may be a child who's affected by it too. So we have programs that work with children. We offer primary care because it's an integrated care approach. When, if a lot of times we'll ask clients, when was the last time you saw a doctor? Maybe when I was in the ER 2 months ago. Well, that's not continuing primary care. That's not healthy. So it's looking at mind, body, and spirit. So we offer primary care for our clients as well. And my particular program, we do outreach to people with behavioral health issues to try and get them into care because they're at highest risk for the unintended consequences, HIV, Hep C, and STDs. So we do a lot of community outreach and testing, we do education, we do rapid testing, and then if we find someone who is positive, we get them linked to treatment and we help keep them in treatment. We also do that with folks who are in our treatment services as well, is to find what other services they need. Is it housing? Is it linkage to education? You know, what other issues are people having that may get in the way of their sobriety? And we just try and help keep them connected to services.
Thank you so much, Regina. I really appreciate you touching on the fact that mental health is such a big piece of this.
I'd say, too, that we treat people regardless of insurance status.
That's very important.
That is. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great interview. Wonderful.
All right, I'll shoot it back to you, Hugo.
All right. Thanks, Liz. We'll talk to you a little bit later, okay? Good. So we're just going to highlight a few folks around. One of the things in terms of raising awareness and education, we've invited Kenny House to come speak tonight to talk about, and Kenny's the Vice President of Clinical Services for Coastal Horizons Center. And he's basically going to help us understand and get a little bit better idea of some of the physical and mental aspects of opioids. I was talking to Kenny earlier, and he said, I was like, tell me a few fun facts that somebody might not know about you. And he said, I don't have any. And I was like, come on, man, I know you do. He said, well, I'm a tennis player. I love tennis. And I have a beautiful 3.5-year-old daughter, so that's pretty awesome. But please welcome Kenny House to the stage as he comes.
Thanks, Hugo. Got this on right? I'm excited to be here tonight, and you know, every person I've ever talked with over the past probably 35 or so years who has experienced this thing that you've heard this term tonight called recovery, every single person I've talked with, there's been an element of this, I would almost call it miraculous in their story. It's a beautiful thing that you're hearing, that recovery doesn't happen as just a matter of course. Recovery for folks has an element of really beauty, and it should give us all hope. So I'm really encouraged by all of you coming out tonight and thinking through this issue. But the problem is recovery oftentimes, as people tell the story, is kind of towards the end of the book. It's the good news that you hear when someone says, you know, they say something like, I've been in recovery for X number of years, and that's really good, but you have to really back up to think about this a little bit differently. And so I want to talk to you tonight about opiates and opioids. And you might say, well, wait a second, I thought it was opioids, so we'll start with this. And I want to assume that there are a lot of people here with a lot of different levels of understanding around this issue. So let me just start. Opiates, O-P-I-A-T-E-S, refers to, I probably don't have this on right. Opiates refers to substances that are derived naturally from the opium poppy. Opioids refers specifically to substances that are made in a laboratory. So oftentimes we talk about this and we use these terms interchangeably, but I want you to understand that there is a fundamental difference between them. So heroin is an opiate because you have to have the opium poppy and ingredients from it in order to make it. Vicodin and OxyContin, and you heard on the video Percocets, those are opioids. They're made completely in a laboratory. And people, the interesting thing about it is that we're experiencing this opioid epidemic. It's actually resulting in a heroin epidemic. But the heroin epidemic came from a prescription opioid epidemic. They're connected. Here's the other interesting fact to that. Your brain doesn't know the difference. Your brain does not register a difference between heroin and Vicodin. Meaning that the Vicodin that you're prescribed by a doctor, your brain registers it the same as if it's heroin. Y'all with me? The brain doesn't know the difference because chemically they are similar. Even though one came from the opium poppy, might have had a different route of how it got to the United States and how it got into someone's hands, and then the opioid, which might have been made in a pharmaceutical company and then went a different route and then through a doctor's prescription pad, but your brain doesn't register the difference. Now, let me tell you a little bit about why your brain doesn't register the difference. And when I've shared this with groups before, if you haven't already heard this, it might seem strange to you. But your brain is already wired to produce an opiate-like substance. Your brain already makes that substance. These things are called neurotransmitters. It's the way we're wired. Your brain produces these chemicals, and these chemicals affect and influence everything about the way we feel and experience the world. It's the way we're made. So, I'm going to tell you a story. It's the same story that I've told to individuals walking through our doors at Coastal Horizons for years and years. It's the same story I tell to someone who wants to understand addiction. And I'm going to tell you what it is. I want you to picture for a second, how many of you like to cook? Okay, I see some hands going up. All right. How many of you like to cook for other people? Okay, some giving people. That's nice. I like that. Now, I want you to picture this story I'm about to tell you. You're making a great meal. My wife makes incredible meals. You're making a great meal. You're putting all the ingredients in, right? And you have this person. Let's just say they're your wife or your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or just your friend. And they're coming over, they call, and they say, I'm on my way. And you say, I've got an incredible meal ready for you. Okay? Y'all with me? And the person shows up just a few minutes late and says, you know what? I got so hungry coming this way, and I had this coupon in my pocket, and there were these 2 Whoppers for $6 or some deal. I can't remember the deal exactly. I just couldn't wait, so I stopped, and I got the Whoppers. Now, your body has registered fullness for many reasons if you ate that, but your body has registered fullness. But what does the cook feel like? Happy? No, sad. Angry? Probably angry. Will you ever cook for that person again? Oh, come on, sure you will. You're forgiving people, that's cool. You'll cook for them again. No, you will. You'll cook for them again, but you'll give them a warning. And you'll say, let's not let this happen again. We'll pretend this never happened. And when it happens the second time, the kitchen is shut down. Your brain registers the same way. Your brain creates, makes, manufactures what are called endogenous opioid-like substances, these neurotransmitters. And when your brain sees that you are no longer relying on its own production, it reacts to that and says, okay, I understand you have another source. I will shut down production. And what we see from that is the beginning of the onset of addiction. It is the shutdown of the production of the brain of natural chemicals that allow us to feel a sense of normalcy. Now, some of us might even have some genetic differences. Some of us might have lower productions of things in our brain, and that might influence us in some ways in what we do or don't do with external substances. Some of us, it might come from other reasons in our environment or our personality or our experiences. But ultimately, the cycle of addiction goes with the brain's response of production. Okay, is everyone with me on this? Now, so that means that oftentimes we look at what somebody does in terms of their behavior, because addiction is a chronic illness. It's treatable, but it's prone to relapse. It's actually similar in its action to many other chronic health conditions in terms of its onset and in terms of its relapse and treatability. As a matter of fact, oftentimes I'll talk with doctors when we're talking about addiction and we get on another subject, and I'll ask, who are the patients that are most frustrating to you? And my doctor friends will almost always tell me it's their hypertension patients. And if I ask why, it's very simple. They say, because they won't do what I tell them. It's really simple. My hypertension patients won't do what I tell them. So what happens? You get medical advice, but you don't like the diet recommendations, you don't like the exercise recommendations, they're difficult to follow. And so you wind up in this cycle. It's a chronic condition. It's difficult to recover. It's treatable, and it's prone to relapse. So if I really defined, without telling you I was talking about addiction, if I really defined much of hypertension or type 2 diabetes, you would find great similarities between the patterns. The difference is that with addiction, we're seeing things that we've never quite seen in such a way, and that's why we've arrived at an opioid epidemic. Because now loved ones, friends, family, people connected to us are dying. Now, there are reasons for why they're dying, and I have some strong concerns about this that I want to share with you, because I'm hoping that something I share tonight will help you communicate with another person. It might not be for you, but it might be for someone nearby you. So, as the movement went from prescription drugs, by the way, prescription drugs in all their studies, they're basically meant for 5 to 10 days of use. Let me just say that. The prescription opioid medications, Vicodin, OxyContin, Percodan, none of them were really intended or created or studied for long-term use. Let me just start with that. They're all designed to be short-term medications. And when you look at the problem of addiction, those medications went longer and longer and longer than were necessary. So this caused this depletion of the brain chemistry, right? And then all of a sudden, people need those. And when I ask someone, people say, well, you just want to keep getting high if someone's still using pills or using heroin. And they don't understand. People who are suffering from addiction, this opioid use disorder, they don't use to feel good or high. They usually use to feel normal. Because when addiction sets in, and as it sets in further, that experience is the experience of normal, which means that a person... Now, some people say to me, oh, I just can't understand that. And I just say, are you kidding me? Did you drink a cup of coffee this morning? Oh, yeah, I had 3 cups of coffee. Yeah. When's the last time you had no cups of coffee? Oh, I wouldn't do that. I'd be hard to live with. Say, well, then you understand what I'm talking about, just at a safer level. And some people say, well, I'm not into coffee. That doesn't apply to me. And then I go to dark chocolate, and then I got everybody in the room. So we actually understand addiction at a fundamental level because all of us have some experience that pertains to it usually. But opioid addiction involved this long history. Really, it's longer than most of us give it credit for in the United States, of not being able to deal with pain very well. Now, I'm not speaking to someone who's suffering from horrible chronic pain, and those are very challenging situations, but I want to talk more generally about pain in our culture. Do you know that in the 1880s, yes, I said 1880s, so that's what, like 100 and almost 40 years ago, over half the population of American women were addicted to opium. And you say, how could that possibly have been? Because all of the medicine men's elixirs that were given out in the community to address everything from pain to headaches to menstrual cramps to everything else was given to women, and it had opium in it. Now you might say, well, what about the men? And they were all at the saloon. So in the 1800s, we had a largely addicted population that basically dealt with pain through chemicals. And then, I grew up where there were the aspirin commercials. How do you spell relief? It was always spelling the name of an aspirin, right? That we grew up thinking that pain had to be relieved very quickly. We've grown accustomed to immediate pain relief. And now it's gotten us in a huge mess. So the opioid epidemic is really not new to our culture. But what we're experiencing right now is new. Because as people are lacing these drugs like heroin with fentanyl, which is much stronger, people are dying and overdosing. There is treatment. There is hope. There is access. But there are certain things that we have to do as a community to make that happen. One of the things that we have to do is we have to learn to protect and be wiser about our prescription medications. Everybody right now who has a prescription medication that is a narcotic or an opioid needs to have it locked up, and you need to know how many pills are in it. Teenagers say that they can access prescription drugs faster than they can access marijuana. So the access is not so much from this person coming on their campuses with the big bad drug dealer. The access is actually in the medicine cabinets. The second thing we have to do is we have to wrap our arms around people who are in recovery. And we have to decrease the stigma attached to that. And in order to decrease the stigma, we have to stop judging people on their paths to recovery. In about 80% of cases with opioid dependence, medications are needed. We got to stop judging people because they're on medications to help them walk through this process. Not everybody needs medications, but we need to give dignity for people who need medications as part of the process of recovery. For people who don't use or access or need those medications, we can rejoice with them that they found another strategy. But we need to decrease the stigma. I'll tell you what else. I don't call people addicts anymore. I don't introduce you as my addict friend. I don't introduce you. If I have a friend who suffers from diabetes, I don't say, hi, this is Fred, my diabetic friend. Hi, I want you to meet Bob, my hypertense buddy. We don't do that with chronic conditions, but we do it so much. Oh, this guy has hypertension, but he's a really good guy once you get to know him. We would never think of talking like that, right? We've got to decrease the stigma about addiction, and I'll include mental health, in order to get to that trust that you heard about earlier that we need, so that people will feel confident in accessing help and having safe spaces and safe places to talk about addiction and recovery issues. I'm also struggling for my folks who are in early recovery. By early recovery, I mean people that are in recovery, let's just say less than a year. I'm really concerned about them, because one slip for them, in many cases, is costing them their life. One slip. Your one slip when you're trying to improve your diet or exercise does nothing but just give you a little bit of guilt. It's costing people their lives. We need to wrap our arms around people in early recovery and give them permission to tell us when they're struggling and slipping. They have to have permission to do that. It has to be okay, because that might save their life. And then we have to connect people to treatment, and I think we have to be willing to go with them. Sometimes it's, look, I'll walk in there with you. Probably one of the best kept secrets that people don't believe is that treatment is actually easier to access than people realize. People can just walk in. I'd love to talk with you about that after that if you have some questions. You see tables out there with people with resources. I know Coastal Horizons, where I work, but other places as well. People can access help. Sometimes they don't know where to go first. But we need to make it where people have hope in accessing help. We need to deal with our problem of pain. We need to protect the medications and do a better job with that. We need to decrease the stigma attached to addiction and recovery, including people when they're struggling and slipping. The same way you would want it when you just didn't follow your diet like you promised everyone you were going to do. And then we need to get people quick access to safe places and spaces to talk about what's going on and to get help. Because treatment is available. And my experience is that treatment works. I'll end with this. Treatment works even when sometimes somebody comes into it completely kicking and screaming and angry and frustrated and not wanting to be there. What I've learned is that it's not the attitude of the person when they walk through the door. It's our ability to engage and keep them engaged until the light bulbs come on. This is a large community here gathering. We can help turn those light bulbs on. Thank you very much.
Kenny, thank you so much for that. That was very informative. Great education. I think we all learned at least something, some of us a lot more than others, but I really appreciate that. Thank you. So we're going to bounce it back out to Liz now, and she's going to go over a couple more resources that are out in the atrium and rotunda. Liz, are you out there for us? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you're on.
All right, we are back. We are with New Hanover Regional Medical Center. I'm a little biased because I work there with the wonderful Iris, and she's going to tell you guys a few of the things that we have going on over there. So, Iris, tell them a little bit about our mission.
Our mission is leading our community to outstanding health. And we do that in numerous ways, accepting and looking at the things that contribute to poorer health that you don't think about, like poverty, homelessness, food insecurity, those types of things. We have long been working to make our community healthier and safer. We have been holding medication disposal events twice a year since 2009, and we have one coming up October 28th. And It will be in 4 counties this time.
Well, that's really great to hear. Thank you so much for telling them a little bit about what we do at work every day. Thanks, Iris. All right, we're going to take a little walk down. Oh, sorry, excuse us. Hello, hello, hello.
A lot of bathroom breaks, it looks like. People heading to the restrooms,
All
which
right,
are, by
so
the way,
we
out
are
the door to your
here
right.
at Refuge. So this
Okay.
is Port City's own addictions ministry. Yes, shout out to Refuge. All right, so I'm here with Jeff, and he's going to tell you a little bit about what we're doing. And sorry, I didn't see your name. And Charity. All right, yes, here we go. What is our mission?
Our mission is really to share hope with people who struggle with life-dominating sins. That's kind of the terminology we use that surrounds addictions, because we help not just people who struggle with necessarily opiates, but kind of that all-encompassing thing of life-dominating sins. So whether it's alcohol or anything outside of the scope of substance abuse as well. So
Charity, how did you get involved with this ministry?
Well, actually, I got involved in this ministry with, struggled with addiction myself. Life-dominating sin is what we use, the terminology. But I came to Christian recovery houses here in about 2013, got involved in Refuge, loved it, never left. And now I'm a Refuge leader. I lead a small group of ladies who struggle with life-dominating sins. And I share my hope and in my experience and everything that I've been through and how I've overcome,
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. How about you, Jeff?
Yeah, I have a really similar story. I came to Refuge about 5 years ago, and it was really just a place where you could be around good people, and not just good people, but people who were moving in a better direction. And I think the thing, whenever you're in addiction or whatever you're struggling with, it's really hopeless. And Refuge was kind of a place for me, for us, for everyone that comes to see that hope and to find that hope ultimately in Christ.
So what is one of the most eye-opening things that you guys have experienced here?
Oh man, that's such a hefty question. Yeah.
I think that the love and the church has embraced us with, the acceptance that Refuge gives to us, is what changed my perspective on Christ and on the church. So that's what kind of,
I think you come into church expecting to be judged, and I came into church expecting for people to be like, "What's wrong with that dude?" But then whenever I got there, regardless of what I did, I came expecting that and almost tried to cause it, and they loved me regardless. And I think that was the craziest thing about it for me. So.
Well, thank you guys so much for sharing. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure everyone in there appreciates it. So we're going to go on down now. Thank you. You'll see it a little bit later. So what I really appreciate about what they're saying is really that message of love and making sure that we're meeting people right where they are. So let's see what our wonderful county is doing to help us and meet people where they are as well. As you can see, they're already at work. How's it going? Hi. Surprise. All right, so we're here with Kate. We caught her a little off guard, but that's all in the spirit of this. So Kate, tell me a little bit about what you all do.
I'm here with the Department of Social Services with New Hanover County. We're here, we've really seen the issues of addiction affect both sides of our agencies, whether it be economic services and benefits, your food nutrition services, or the necessity of Medicaid to get treatment in a lot of cases. We also have been seeing a big increase in the need for our social work intervention. A lot of families facing addiction. We have a lot of children in our care or custody as an effect of opioid addiction. So a lot of services and a lot of effort is really going toward this in the Department of Social Services, and we're really grateful to have the support of our county behind us as well and be involved in these kinds of events.
All right, thank you so much, Kate. All right, John, is there anything you wanted to add to Amanda? All right, we will send it on back to you, Hugo. Thank you.
Liz, thank you so much. A variety of resources. You guys don't know how many people are clapping for all of you guys. It's really cool. So thank you for that. Public speaking still is a challenge for a lot of people. I think it's all some of that. I don't want to get even on the video. No, so there are a lot of resources, a lot of different ones. We really want to encourage you guys to hang around. We allocated time tonight for us to spend some time at the end of the evening to really interact and spend some of that time getting to know some of the people and one another and just finding out more about our resources. Now, we're gonna have a segment here that's gonna be a great segment. We've talked about awareness, we've talked about education, and really there's a huge part in this that I think we as a community, and especially community of faith, but as a community can come alongside and really help inspire and provide hope for people. Because this really is, you talk to anybody struggling, they feel hopeless. The general feeling is a feeling of hopelessness, of I'm not worthy, I do these things, I can't control myself, I'm worthless as a human being. I mean, all that's wrapped up in this guilt and shame of using it. So that's one of the challenges of breaking stigma down. But also, how do we inspire? Like, how do we come together? How do we encourage each other as a community? Because I believe that in this day and age, it is harder and harder and harder for us to have a true sense of community. You have online communities, you have communities around, but that are kind of pseudo communities. But it's really a challenge for us to have true community, regardless of our differences in beliefs. That's always been one of the distinguishing things in communities. And we want to say we value people. I think that's been one of the key components tonight that I have heard over and over and over again is that there's this acceptance of people as they are to start with. That we care about someone not as they have potential. Like, it's not that we see the potential in them and so they're worthy. It's that we meet them where they are and show value to a human being. You guys are going to have in for a great treat. Mike Ashcraft is coming to speak. He's our senior pastor here at Port City, one of the co-founders of the church with Chris, his brother-in-law. And if you don't know Mike, he's a phenomenal guy. He's our senior pastor. A couple things about Mike. He loves his family. He is a pillar in the community, a landmark in the community. He's absolute bonkers about surfing and getting out there and surfing. So he is definitely a surfer dude. And I believe he is truly a voice in this community. Considered an honor and privilege to work alongside Mike for the amount of time I've had for 11 and a half years. A couple of interesting facts to know about Mike. Mike, you can come on out here now. December 31st, 1999 was the last time he had a soda of any kind. I don't know why. And also in the 80s, you'll hear Mike, if you ever watched him online or come to a service, he always talks about rocking a mullet. So he has this thing, if you ever want to know something, just talk to him and ask him about rocking a mullet, and don't look at my head like that. And also, he did marry his second grade sweetheart, which is awful.
It's
awfully
awesome,
cute.
yeah.
Not in second grade, but in, after they had dated for a while. So, Mike, we're really excited for you to be here. Thank you for speaking. And
we're looking for the hook back there to get you off.
You always give me a hard time. I'm only over by a minute, and
okay,
that's in your
is?
standards. That's
Perfect.
good.
All right, that is good.
All right,
thank you, Hugo. Thank you. One is, I will tell you, for those of you who are like, oh my gosh, they give a preacher like the last minute, I will not be long. What I get to do, I feel very privileged to. Kenny House, I don't know where you went to. Thank you so much. Helping us understand, and it's really one of the biggest things for us to come together as a community to try to understand. And you heard it from Charity, you heard it from Jeff, that the refuge ministry is something that as a church, it's not something we put and say, oh, you're going to meet on a different place. We embrace what is happening in their lives and with their lives and consider them to be a part. And it has been a long journey for me. I sat on the stage last weekend with Mark Allen, and I've known Mark Allen for 12 years. I would trust him with every single thing that I am. And he told me, he said, Mike, 20 years ago, I would have manipulated you, I'd have lied to your face, I'd have taken money from you, and it is unbelievable to me to think that I would have distanced myself from him 20 years ago. It's when we begin to understand that people can really change and there's hope for them, that we begin to really believe that ourselves and start to reduce the stigma, like Kenny said, to start to reduce the stigma. But when we talk, this whole thing's about a movement. And a movement is about moving from one place to another place, except in this issue, it's not from moving from one place to another place. It's not from one place to another place, it's to someone. These are people on the other end of these issues that you and I have to be able to understand what is happening in their lives and lives. And we are affected by this in ways that we do not even begin to understand yet. For those of you who are like me, I've sat on the outside, I've lived, I did not get how someone could struggle with addiction. I didn't get it until Kenny said, you had coffee? I'm like, oh yeah, I get it now. It's this idea that we look at them as junkies, or we look at them as some other thing, less than humans. And so you really begin to get in and understand their story, who they are, and work to understand this. The end of this idea of the movement, the tagline is the end of an epidemic. And the end of something requires a beginning. And what has to happen is we have to have the end of the isolation that has gone on for too long. I'm so excited to see all these partners out here in one place so that we can finally start to see what is going on in our community, what resources are available, and what we can do to connect people to those resources. I think Kenny's right. That's one of the big problems is access to it. We get to see what is happening. It's the end of isolation of the addicts, of people who struggle with these things. It's the end of their isolation to go and to hide and to stay and to feel like they're less than human because of what they're struggling with. It's the end of isolation for families who are ashamed and deal with the embarrassment of what's happening when your son or your daughter or your husband or your wife or your friend or whoever it is in your circle that's struggling with this. It's the end of the separation, the isolation of all the different resources between the medical community, the law enforcement community, the mental health community, and the church community. It's time we all came together and began a new era of togetherness, of saying this is a we problem. The movement, right. I consider myself to be moving from being a part of the problem to being a part of the solution. I am one who would have just said if they just worked harder, if they were smarter, if they had more self-discipline or self-will, if they just did the things I asked them to do, then they wouldn't have the problem. That is not true. There's something else going on. And there are things that you and I can do about it, and it involves us getting involved in the lives of people and in the lives of the families of people who struggle. The movement isn't about taking one place from another, like moving a couch from here to there. It's really about another person, a human being. We're talking about moving people from addiction to freedom, from being ashamed and hidden and feeling worthless to being fully present and alive with purpose. When I sit down with Jeff or with Mark or with Dermot or any of these guys and you see the life that they have, and you realize that these are people who have tremendous potential that are really, they've been separated and free, or they've been freed from the life that they used to live. And so tonight I get to talk about what fuels a movement. What is it that fuels a movement? It's one thing to talk about it and get excited and clap. What fuels a movement? Honestly, it's not that complicated. It's the same thing that fuels everything that's ever mattered to any human being alive, and that is hope. Hope fuels a movement. But what prevents us from moving ahead? Number one is those who struggle with addiction and addictive behaviors typically are just mired in shame. I know people, we have done 5 funerals in the last 3 months here at our church. One was because he was too ashamed. I'm sure that's what happened. Just what Kenny said, once the first one happened, it's like I can't put my family through this again. I can't put anybody, nobody is going to want to walk with me through this again. And so it's just better for me to be gone. Shame crushes people and it keeps them hidden and it keeps them from feeling as though they don't matter. And that keeps you from moving forward. Those of you who walk with people who struggle with addictions, I know you're exhausted. You're infuriated. You're like, really, again? I've done this over and over and over and over, and it keeps us from moving forward. The cycle continues to doom any movement or any hope of movement that we might have, and it keeps people in the shadows, and it keeps our community isolated, and it keeps the problem going. So what fuels the movement? Well, it's fueled by hope. And hope is really simple. It's simply believing something enough to keep going. That's all it is. Just enough to keep going. It's interesting, Sam, I'm a preacher and you're supposed to use the Bible when you preach, and so I'm going to do that. If you're a Christian, if you're a religious person or a person of faith, you've probably heard this verse in the Old Testament before. And for those of you who are Christians, who might be a people of faith, this might be your favorite verse on the planet. People pick favorite verses in case you didn't know that. And this is Jeremiah 29:11. You've probably seen this plastered somewhere, and this is God talking. He says, I know the plans that I have for you. I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope in the future. I'm like, what human being doesn't want that? Right? We all want a God that doesn't give us harm and that plans to do us no harm and that wants us to prosper. That's an awesome thing. But it's these next two things that are really interesting to me, that give us a hope and to give us a future. We all go, yes, when we do that, do we understand what that means? What does it mean to have a future? A future means that there's simply something ahead of you that is worth living for. That's what a future is. So we want God to give us a future. We're saying we want a future. We want something that exists ahead of us that is worth living for, whether it's enduring this or staying in this or holding on to this or whatever it might be, just because something is coming that is worth whatever we're dealing with right now. That's what a future is. But what is hope? Hope is really interesting in this because what all of us want is we want certainty. Whenever you enter into a relationship with someone, especially when they're struggling, you want to make sure, how am I going to be sure that this person is going to get the help they need, is going to be better, is going to recover, whatever it might be. And we work our whole lives to eliminate uncertainty from everything, but hope, by its very definition, requires uncertainty. Hope, by its very definition, requires faith, right? None of you hope that the Panthers won yesterday. Well, I hope the Panthers won yesterday. Why? Because you already know that they did. Now, when they were that offense fest that was going on yesterday, you're like hoping against hope that they win. Because it still hasn't happened. It's still uncertain. And the greater the uncertainty and the more threatened the uncertainty becomes, the greater need for hope and the greater your hope can actually be. It's simply fuel that keeps you moving into the future that you believe exists for you. It's always aimed at the future. So how do we get this? How do we do this? The thing that excites me, and I think everybody gets hope, but how do you breathe hope into someone? How do you breathe hope into someone who feels like they don't matter, they're not worth anything, that they'd be better off dead, or whatever the laundry list of excuses and statements to describe them would be? Well, it's really simple. An encouraging word, right? Putting your arms around them, extending a hand, walking with them through whatever they're going through, helping them get to treatment, walking with them through help. All of these things are part of breathing life. And some of you are going, oh my gosh, I've been doing this for so long. You realize that playing with a beach ball by yourself isn't a whole lot of fun. And it's a lot of work. And eventually I'm probably going to fall because I'm going to be so dizzy from doing this. And playing with a flat beach ball isn't very much fun either. But what happens is you just have to breathe in a little life. One breath at a time. And it's hard. And sometimes you need to get someone else to come up here and blow for you. But what we tend to think is if we can just breathe enough air into someone who's struggling, that will be enough. But it's not enough. It's just the beginning. You got to put some more in there. Because suppose we wanted to move this beach ball from here to back there. A flat beach ball is not that much fun, is it? What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to hold on to it and pass it to the person behind you. It's going to take a whole lot of work and a whole lot of care to get that thing back. But with just a little bit of life and a little bit of lift, no, that way. We start to see a little bit of movement, right? And let me ask you this. How much trouble was it for you? Now, you got the flat beach ball. You're going to take that home, aren't you? You're not even paying attention. You're like trying to blow the ball. Hey, give me that thing. I'm just kidding. So how much trouble was it for you to do that? Not much. So really, how do you give hope to someone? How do you do this? You breathe life into someone, breathe a little bit of life, and give a little bit of lift. And this happens not because, listen, and if you're here and you're addicted, you're struggling with addiction, and you sort of almost lost hope, let us hope for you. Let us hope for you. Look at Mark Allen. Go look at Jeff. Go walk out there and talk to people who've been where you are and have been set free from where you are and draw hope from that. If you are here and you are so tired of dealing with a son or a daughter or a mom or a dad or a brother or a sister, let us hope for you. Let us give you just a little bit of lift. You see, when we all work together, you are able to come out of the shadows and get some of the burden off of you and begin to feel alive. At some point, it's not just about ending an epidemic, it's about beginning a new way of togetherness in which we move forward to make a difference in our city, our region, and our world. And the reality is, there's all kinds of people. There's one person here and one person there, and it just takes a couple of people moving and doing things here and doing things there. And when you begin to see that one person holding up, and here, keep going, let's put them out there, let's keep this thing started. And there's more. And the thing is, whatever you do, oh, sorry. You see, it doesn't take much, does it? Why? Because there's 1,000 people in here doing this. And imagine if 1,000 turns into 10,000, and 10,000 turns into 100,000. All of a sudden, you begin to make addiction a thing of the past. So you are having way too much fun. Awesome. Now it sounds like popcorn. We're playing a little volleyball now. All right, let me get us back on task here for just a second. Hey, you gotta hold that right here. We're gonna start it all over again. Just there you go, you're all right, good. I'm gonna leave it up here. Y'all, there's already enough out there. Anyone who struggled with an addiction or has walked with someone who struggles, you know how frustrating it can be. And you may think that hope is lost, and at times it does, but this is where we come in. You see, we can bring hope where you think hope is lost. The beautiful thing about tonight is not just the number of people here. That's pretty incredible. It's not just the number of organizations here. That's pretty incredible as well. It is both the number of people and the number of organizations, because that's all the hands that are used to just give a little lift and breathe a little life all on the way to make a huge difference. Y'all, if we can break I believe if we can break the cycle of despair that a struggling person endures, the shame and the guilt and the worthlessness that they feel, if we can break that cycle and we can help ease the burden of those who are near them and shoulder and encourage and bring hope, we can begin to break the cycles that undermine recovery. And we can begin to be the hope for those whose hope is running out. So together, we, me and you, are bringing hope so that you can begin to hope. And that is the fuel for the movement. Thank you guys so much, okay? Thank you. Now, we're going to do two things finishing up. I want to do two things finishing up, and I so appreciate that. I will tell you, we're going to show another video that will kind of help you see some of the tangible steps that you can take tonight that we're going to allow you to go and talk to the folks at the booth. But you're also going to hear one more time, and certainly Hugo Izzo and Liz deserve a huge round of applause for putting this together. But I will tell you this. Mark Allen's going to come back out here and dismiss y'all. And when y'all do, if y'all want to clap for somebody, y'all clap for him. Because he has lived this, and I've seen this guy go into where people are like no one I've ever seen. He's such a humble and gentle guy, but he is so tenacious with the way he loves people and meets people. And we, and as a church, are privileged to have him, but we as a community are really, really, really fortunate to have him and his leadership. So take a look at this video, then welcome Mark Allen back to the stage.
Our employees have a heart for this. We see the destruction. We see our regular patients walk in with that first opioid prescription, and we have a sense of where some of this is going to lead some of them.
We're all affected. This is not a personal problem. This is a community problem, and everyone thinks that it can't happen to them, that it doesn't exist in their home, it doesn't exist in their neighborhood, and it does.
Everybody is affected by this. You know, it's silence that's killing individuals, and you know, it's unfortunate where we are today. I will also say that it's a blessing that we're at least having the conversation.
I want people to know that this is not an individual issue. This is not a moral issue. It is very much so a community issue, and I don't think that we are able to be oblivious anymore and sweep it under the rug as if it doesn't exist.
Everyone can do something about this. You know, there's individuals like myself that'll take it to the streets, that, you know, feet hit the concrete, go out there, work with people in active addiction, get them into recovery. Then there's other individuals that may not want to take that necessarily direct hands-on approach, but they could volunteer for organizations. I feel like everybody needs to find their niche, have the conversation, and then take action.
After having my daughter, I needed some pain medication, but the way it affected me was crazy. I was becoming so quickly, within a week and a half, addicted to something that I had no intention of getting. And it blew my mind how quickly that came to be and how easy it was to get.
Many people, ex-husband, cousin, nephews, other friends, their family members, and the access to this, I believe, began in the home.
It was me, a mom that was just ready to pursue having a family. I worked at a church. I was dedicated to my husband. I seemed like the most responsible person on the planet at the time. And there it was, just right there in my lap, this opportunity to become addicted to something that I think truly I could have easily gotten more of.
I've seen the suicides. I've seen the overdoses. I've also had the pleasure of seeing the recovery from active addiction, and a person's going from uselessness, homelessness, worthlessness, incarceration, to completely turning their lives around and becoming productive members of society.
I would like to encourage people to do their part by any means that they're comfortable in doing so, to figure out how can we as a community help deal with this epidemic, because it is very much so an epidemic.
Put it up. Keep it away, and make sure that it's the same that you would do with anything that's dangerous. Guns, you keep up. Other things that could harm children or other people unknowingly. It's not hard to do. And it's a tiny thing that you can do to help and protect. Isn't that what we're supposed to do?
The main thing I would emphasize is just get involved. It's all around you. So it's like you can't just ignore it and it'll go away. This is not going away. Now, how bad it gets is up to all of us.
In order to find what that niche is and where you can be utilized or where you can excel at in helping, the first thing I would say you need to do is reach out to people that are already doing it instead of recreating the wheel. You need to utilize the services that are in play and find out where you fit.
I think what I would want to change the most in the world of opioids and the struggle that we have is just for everyone to be on board, to understand that we all have struggles, we all make mistakes, so kind of just come together and work together to fix that. Don't shame people for it. We all make mistakes. Let's love each other through it and past it, because that's what a community does.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for being a part of this movement. This is a community movement. You know, one thing I do want to mention is that there's a vital next step for every single one of us. It is being mindful of the medications that we have in our homes, especially pain medication. There are 3 things that we do need to remember. First of all, do not share medications. Second, lock up medications. Third is to dispose of medications properly. There are 2 awesome methods to be able to do this, to dispose of them properly. One is called a medication drop box. What you have in your program on the last page, many different locations in this city, where really all you have to do, you have to look at the medications that you have in your home. Figure out what is expired and what are these medications that we're not using. We need to protect the people that we love and the people that are coming into our homes. So once we discover what are these meds that we really don't need, bag them up, take them to one of these locations where there's a medication drop box. And this drop box is super simple. It's like going to the library. When you turn that book in at that box in front of the library, it's just like that. Open the slot, put it in, and you leave. It's done. Another method to dispose of these medications properly. It's called a medication take-back day. There's a huge one coming up, October 28th. 9 to 10 possible locations in our region. Basically, it's these times when it's set up. All you do, you drive up, you've got your bag of medications that you don't need anymore, and you hand it off. You don't have to sign anything. You don't have to do anything like that. It's a done deal. But think about this. These medications, powerful medications, are out of your home. We're protecting the very people that we love that are entrusting us, and they're coming into our homes. So what's super cool about this is that, think about how many people are here today. All of us, we do this. What if tomorrow we shared with 2 people, each one of us? We triple the amount of homes that are now safe. No one's going to get these meds. Think about this. I think it's 2/3 of all overdoses come from medications. 8 out of 10 men and women who are struggling with heroin started out by taking medications from the home or from a friend's home. We can make an impact tonight. We absolutely can. So that's something that every single one of us can do tonight. So thank you so much. I mean, really, this is what community is about. So what I would like to do is thank a couple people. First of all, Port City Community Church volunteers and staff. They have made this happen. Yes, thank you. And really a big thanks to Debbie Kenzie, who I have worked with very closely on our care team. She's amazing. She just totally made so much of this happen. So thank you, Debbie Kenzie, wherever you're at. Yes, absolutely. Special thanks to Olivia Herndon at CHEC, amazing. Also, New Hanover Regional Medical Center. They are just amazing. And all of the resources that are out in all the hallways. How amazing is that they have shown up to be a part of this movement? And a very special thanks to Hugo and to Liz for guiding us and walking us through this night. Thank you. Thank you. And so, Liz, what would you like to add to this?
Well, first, we want to thank you, Mark, for being the wonderful orchestrator of all of this. Your vision is not lost.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's amazing. Thank you.
All right, so like Mark was saying, we still have all of our really great resources out there. They're ready and waiting for you all to come and flood them with questions. They have plenty of pamphlets and information for you. If you want to figure out who you want to go see, look through your resource list. And again, we are so much stronger if we're unified together. And dare I say, I might be overstepping, but I think everyone out there wants to find a way to work themselves out of a job. That's the goal here, so that we don't have to deal with this issue anymore. So make sure you go out and talk to them.
That's right. Thanks, guys. Hey, listen, as a church, we would love, just as we dismiss, if everyone would stand, and just as a community of faith, we're going to say a prayer, and we ask those of faith that would join with us. And if you're not or of faith, or you're somewhere in that process, just you can stand there quietly. But we really do just want to offer this up to the person that we believe is in control through all of this. So if you would, please join me as we pray to close this evening out. God, we are grateful for this night. Lord, you have made us in your image, and we have such a capacity for so many great things, and also can be turned aside by different things of this earth. Lord, I pray that you would give us strength and strength together as a community, that you would help us to overcome our differences in order to be combined, to breathe hope into people's lives, to walk alongside of people and to sometimes be that hope for them. I pray that this community would strengthen together as we seek to use wisdom and discernment as we move forward. Again, I thank you so much for each person here and the dignity that they have, and just thank you for this evening. In Jesus' name, amen.